Boker Tov. Mem Gimel Amud Beis. You just mentioned the previous sugya. The sugya over there was about Mavrich Markiv and the exemption of someone who went into the Kerem. So the Gemara wanted to figure out how to reconcile the Mishnah and the Brisa if Mavrich Markiv is Pater or not. And the Gemara Tuti Rutzim, the last teretz was just the name. Yasser Avdimi. What was that? Here it was before. Kesser Avdimi, Yom Rabbi Yochanan, Amani of Elazar ben Yaakov. That was the answer. So whatever the answer was, that it says it goes going to Elazar ben Yaakov, it says Dafka Bayis, he had Dafka Kerem, Dafka Nota. That was the answer before. Because of that, we get a bonus that we have a lot of similar names coming up, and it's going to be Avdimi Yom Rabbi Yochanan. And here, Agamor wasn't Mishim of Elazar ben Yaakov, was saying Hamani of Elazar ben Yaakov, but these names, Avdimi, Rabbi Yochanan, of Elazar ben Yaakov. Because of that, we're going to have a lot of bonuses. Yasser Avdimi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum of Elazar ben Yaakov. That's going to be the golden thread coming up. That is going to be these names. Afterwards, we'll see some more names. So these are the halachas that he says. Yalda Pchusta Mitafa Chayavas Ba'ola Kol Shno Seh. If you have a tree that even after it's 3 years old, it still looks like it's a young tree. It still looks like it's within 3 years because it doesn't grow too high. So it looks like it's Orla. So with Rabbanon, it's Chayv and Orla even after it's 3 years. With Rabbanon, a tree that doesn't grow high and it looks like it's within the first 3 years, so it's also because of Orla with Rabbanon. The Mischazi Kibashata, it looks like it's 1 year old. Hani Mili Stein Keneg Stein Bachas Yotza is Zanov. Aval Kule Kerem Kole Islay. That's only if it's a minimum amount of trees, 1 tree, even 5 trees, also we're going to ask also. But if it has a whole kerem, a big kerem, so then everybody knows that this is already an old vineyard, old orchard, and they know that it's not old anymore. That's good. That's what we said yesterday. They have the configuration over there, and yesterday's page that's 2 and 2 and then 1. That's why 2 against 2 and 1 extra 1. One that's
that proves their work.
That doesn't prove it. Just that's the minimum kerem usually. That's the minimum in order to be a vineyard. That's the minimum amount of trees in that configuration that it should be considered a kerem.
What does that have to do with how young?
Does that have to do with
how young it is? That it's young.
No, right, nothing. Right, you're right. There's nothing. Just the more going to say the difference between one single tree or many trees. If you have a kerem, you have a whole orchard. So then everybody knows that even though it's very small and short, but everybody knows that it's already after
when it
years
has
of
the configuration, then if it's young and you don't know.
That's a little different. That even though it has the configuration, even though it's 5 and it has halachically it's called a kerem. Sometimes in Ilchos Orla, or Klai Kerem, there's Klai Kerem. There's a difference if it's considered a kerem or not. There's Gefen Yechidi and there's a kerem. If it's a single individual vine or it's a kerem. A kerem has special halachas. Over there it says that the minimum kerem is Stein Keneg Stein Bachas Yotzei Zana. 2 and 2 and 1 in between. That's called like the tail. So as far as halachas of kerem is considered a minimum kerem. So he's telling you that as far as this halacha, that's not enough to get it out of the coal. What are we saying? That this tree which is this tree which is short, it looks like an Orla tree. So we're going to say that it's also Mirabbanan because of Orla, even though it's the 50 year already, but it looks like it's short. So we're going to answer it because it looks like Orla. But if it's a kerem, it's a whole orchard of these trees, so everybody knows that it's past Orla. How about if it's a minimum kerem? You might say, oh, that's also called a kerem, and it maybe there's something wrong over here.
Where did that box from the box in the
Okay. Yesterday was perfect. Okay. Yeah. So what are we saying?
We're saying that
if it's a kerem, if it's a whole kerem, so then even though it's a short tree, everyone knows that it's really past the years of Orla and they didn't make this Issa Rabbanan. You might think, what's called a kerem? Once it's a minimum kerem, it's called a kerem and it has a coal. So it says no. Even Stein Keneg Stein Bachas Yotzei Zana is still not enough to take away this coal. You have to have a real kekule kerem. You have to have a big kerem. What's called a big kerem? I don't know, but it has to be called an orchard. Just because halachically has the name of a kerem because it's 5 trees in a certain configuration, that's not enough to take away the problem. And the kitzur, the short trees, since it's short, it looks like Orla, so it's Orla. So you have a big kerem. That's halacha. Kesser Avdimi, another one of Avdimi. Yasa Another one, the same thing. Of the same people. Everything is a bonus over here. Mace, I shouldn't be underlining the names as much as the statements. Mace Tov Abba Amos, that you're not allowed to say Divrei Torah next to a mace because it's loig with Rosh. I think I was going to say right away. Oh, take that back. Okay. Mace Tov Abba Amos, somebody ridicules the poor man. He's ridiculing his maker. So the dead man is considered poor. He can't do mitzvahs anymore, and you're doing mitzvahs in front of him, so it's ridiculing him. So you're not supposed to do that. So how close of a proximity is it considered that you're too close? 4 hours. So you're not allowed to say Krishma or Davin or say Divrei Torah within the Al Amos of a mace. And that's the halacha. The Gemara talks about someplace else in Brachas. How about if it's only Divrei Torah? How about maybe the Almas, other things, other news talk? That we're passing. You are allowed to just Divrei Torah. It's not proper, maybe, but Allah is only us to Divrei Torah. The mace doesn't care if you're just talking politics or something like that, sports. But they talk Divrei Torah, so then it hurts him that he can't talk Divrei Torah.
I see the swam that let's see goes to the cavern, yard side, whatever. You learn Mishnais, you say from Mishmasa, Nifta,
So that's a chiddush because in Shulchan Aruch it says not even to say Kaddish within the Amos of the Nifta, of the Kevin. People don't do it nowadays. They say this, that it's even Nishmas, so it's different. The Shulchan Aruch didn't go like that. I don't know when it changed. But Espedim is not Divrei Torah. Espedim is really not supposed to be Divrei Torah. Espedim nowadays became a word on the Parsha, but it wasn't supposed to be. Espedim means to say about his ma'asim. It's not considered. But nowadays people do say Divrei Torah in the Espedim, and they say it within the Daled Amos, and they say Kaddish, say Mishnayos. But it's within even next to the mace, even within the Daled Amos. The Parsha is supposed to be Daled Amos away from the mace. That's the Parsha. So the minute is not only that, they say that it's Mishmas, it's considered
After the burial, right there
by the burial also what?
They should be 4 up now.
Yeah, usually technically halachically would say the Allah Amos away from the Kevin. Nowadays it's hard because it's next to another Kevin. So you have to go Ramish away till you're out of the vicinity of the Kvarim, the Allah Amos away. Most people don't do it.
how about 17?
Same thing. If even Kaddish, Kaddish it says mostly the Nishmas. And even that it says in Shulchan Aruch to get the Allah Amos away. Okay. But is that good? It's still good? Something to change over here? I became too.
So then what? People that are doing it, every year it's coming up now on the 3rd of Sivan. I go to a kever with a minyan to say to Hillam and then say Kaddish. So what should we do?
The minhag olam is to do it because it's called Ilun Nishmas. So technically, there are people that are makir and they go Dal Amos away from the Kvarim. Okay.
I'll see what happens this week.
When you say for them also,
yeah.
Well, there might be a place down.
It should be, technically, halachically, we better to be Dal Amos away from the Kvarim. Most people are not makir. Most people don't consider it a problem. Now it's not anymore of Dimi, it's of Yitzchak, but it's also going to be of Yochanan Mishum of Elazar ben Yaakov. For God's, I don't know how to pronounce it. For God, I don't know. It means a stepdaughter. It means you have a husband and a wife. They got married, and each one has a child. The husband has a son. The wife has a daughter. Are they allowed to get married?
For best we said as well, stepdaughter.
Stepdaughter. So they're not right. The stepdaughter amongst the brothers. She grew up together, a family, they got married. Each one had a child, they got married. They're not a common child. So the brother and the sister not married, not related at all. Not the same father, not the same mother. That's what happened over there. So here they grew up together, and everyone thinks that they're brother and sister. So maybe she should be also to marry. So Elazar ben Yaakov said yes, that if she grew up together with the brothers, the it looks like the sister. But the Gemara says not. The Gemara passes not like that. Below he, you don't pass like this. Everybody knows that they're not brother and sister. Everybody knows that it's the parents, children, and they're not married, so therefore they're allowed to. I think of Moshe Feinstein. I didn't look it up now, but I think Moshe Feinstein, based on this Gemara, he learns out something about Hilchos Yichud. Is it mutter to be misyachad? They're not really related. They're not brother and sister. The father, the stepfather, and the brothers. And he says if they'd be also yichud, then it wouldn't even be avamina that looks like a brother and a sister. if they're considered full strangers, so he says, I think that's mutter. But I don't remember exactly that Gedorim of Veseta, but he built it on this Gemara. If it says that
People
these,
that are makpid to on the yichud. is that
no,
what you're saying?
no, he's saying that there's no Issa Yichud. I don't know that
There's no
people don't.
certain
Yichud in this case, where the father has a son and or a daughter and the mother, and they each one, two kids are not married and are not related at all. So technically, there should be Issa Yichud.
There should be, yeah.
But the Moshe says, based on this Gemara, that is not. Because it says that they grow up like a brother and sister. It wouldn't have even been Avrohom of Elazar ben Yaakov that they should not let get married to each other. There's never Yichud. They don't, everyone knows that they're not brother and sister. I'm not quoting it, I don't see it in front
That's
of me.
going like
But
Rabbi Eliezer.
even if Elazar ben Yaakov would not have answered it. The Gemara says at the end that everyone knows about it. Everybody knows that they're not really brother and sister. But the Moshe says the fact that the Gemara,
Wait a minute, he ushered them getting married because
Yes.
it looks like they're,
because everyone knows that, because it looks like they have been brother and sister. People will think a brother and sister got married.
so that's because he would agree that they're not observing yichud, and so it looks like they're brother and sister.
They're not observing Yichud, right? That's what Moshe says. The Moshe says, you see here, they're not observing Yichud. If they would have been observing Yichud, then no one would have thought they're like a brother and a sister.
Right, I'm saying Rabbi Eliezer would say they're not observing yichud.
I'm not sure if you're saying the same terminology. Observing Yichud. Was observing Yichud. That
They would be in the
can't-
same room and it wouldn't matter because they're brother and sister.
Does Elazar ben Yaakov say that?
No, he says that they shouldn't get married.
He said they
because it
shouldn't
looks
get
like
married.
they're brother and sister.
How does it look that they're brother and sister?
Because
They're
they're
in the same room together all the time.
Yeah, so we're saying the same thing.
Okay,
So Moshe Feinstein says, and you see in the Gemara that they have been living for many years as brother and sister do.
I see.
If there will be that they're not allowed to live in the same house, so then it wouldn't ever, no one would ever think that they're brother and sister.
And the low would be, even though they're,
Even though
they're in yichud, everybody knows that it's not a
Right,
real
right,
sister.
right. More or less that's what Moshe says, but I don't remember the details, so
Uh-huh.
nobody's, I should quote only to look it up. Another thing about Rabbi Yitzchak, Omar, Rabbi Yochanan, Mishim of Elazar ben Yaakov, all from the same people. Leket Shikhopeya Sha'asan Goren, take out the base, Sha'asan Goren, no Pula Maisa. Leket Shikhopeya that only takes, he collects the gleanings and whatever's worth for him to take. So it's Hefker and a Potter for Maisa. It's not Chayv Maisa. You can take it without taking off Maisa. But if he made a Goren out of it, Sha'asan Goren, he took it and he got a lot.
Well, what word did you say to take out?
Leket Shikho, the first on my page is the first letter, big Goren. So it should be Goren. Rashi doesn't have it, the Gemara in Brochus doesn't have it. I didn't look at the Gersos, probably it's not there either. Asad Goren means that he made it into a Goren, he made it into a pile. And looks like he just got it from the field. It doesn't look like Hefker. Hefker, right. So if he takes, if he goes
Take
Leket
out the
Shikhopeya,
base, you're saying?
take out the base, right? So Asad Goren, he made it Goren. What does it mean that he made it as if it was a pile and he got a lot, then he put it together in a pile, and now it looks like it's a regular pile that has been reaped and harvested from the field. So it looks like it's not Hefker. If he takes Leket Shikhopeya, comes home, puts it into his pantry, okay, everything's fine. It's not Chayv, not Chayv. But if he puts it, makes a pile out of it, then it looks like it's just come from the field, from the harvested field. So now it looks like it's his own. It doesn't look like so. Midabana, you have to take the Trumas and Maisros.
Uh-huh.
Amar Ula, Lamon El Besada, the beer color is like that. Color is it says only if it's in the field. That this tree, this pile he made in the field, so people don't realize that it was a collection of Leket Shikhopeya. They think that it's collected from his own private field. Then it looks bad. You have to take off Trumas and Maisros. But if it's in the city, everybody knows that in the city he brought a little in. So they see he's bringing a little at a time. And then everyone knows that it was from Leket Shikhopeya. They don't think that it was from his own field.
Uh-huh.
So there's no chash over there. A new statement. Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Yochanan of Elazar ben Yaakov. Yalda Pusa Mitapach. So before we spoke also about the Yalda Pusa Mitapach. That was the first Gemara today. And that was Rav Dimi of Rabbi Yochanan of Elazar ben Yaakov. And the Gemara doesn't put it together because it's two different people. There's Rav Dimi and this is Rav Yitzchak. But it's also going to have something similar about a tree which looks very small. Before I spoke about that, it looks like Orla. Here's a little different point. Yalda Pusa Mitapach in Makadosh says as well. That doesn't look like a tree, and therefore it's going to be a kula. It's going to be a leniency that it's not going to make kalais wrong. Usually, if there'd be a geffen, there'd be a vine that's growing. You're not allowed to put it next to this wrong, and if it becomes kalais wrong, it's going to become like Karen. It's going to become usher because they planted it next to each other. And here's a kula that since it's less than a tefach, so we don't give it a din of a tree. Rashi, yes, please.
In a vineyard.
In a vineyard, that told you 5 of them, let's say. So it doesn't make it usher, it's not considered a tree. So you have to say, Rashi says, it's talking about Rabbanans over here. If it be the Raisa, then it wouldn't say, that would be, he wouldn't say that it's mutter because it doesn't look like it, if it really is. So Rashi says something over here. The name will lead, because Rashi has to get into the Rabbanan. Rashi has a shot, why should be Rabbanan? If it will be the Raisa, you couldn't be makel because it doesn't look like it. So Rashi says the case why it's only Rabbanan, and therefore they didn't make that it should have a din of a kerem because it doesn't look like it. Again, we said this thing about a minimum kerem, that's 2 and 2 plus 1 protruding. So that's the minimum kerem. By minimum kerem, we'll say that it doesn't look like a kerem. But if it's going to be a real big kerem, so then even though they're small, then we're not going to be makel, and over there we're going to say that it does answer it even though it's very small. So a sort of halach is from this name.
It's not gonna grow and become a big tree.
It looks, it's probably something.
No, it's
Before it meant
bonsai or
that it's
something.
even-
It's a little tree, it's always gonna be a little tree.
So before the Gemara seemed to say that really should have been big. All trees this age are already big, and this has been unusually small. So probably the Gemara here means the same thing, that it's smaller than it's supposed to be. So it doesn't look like a regular tree, doesn't look like a regular vine, and you might
That's not considered kalan.
don't consider it climb. But of course, it's only going to be on a Rabbana. A few trees like that, fine. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a kerem at all. And even though the regular halachas apply kerem, it should be yasser. Rashi says, of course, Rabbanan, if it will be this or the rice, they wouldn't be able to be makel. So Rashi goes, why only Rabbanan? If it's a Rabbanan, they're not going to be machmer if it doesn't look like a kerem. That's if it's a minimum kerem. But if it's a big kerem, then we're not going to have this leniency. Even if it looks small, even if it's very short, it's still going to have the issue of Maya kerem.
Because before we had a chumrah.
Right, and here's a cooler. Right, before it's a chumrah that's considered orla, even after the years, and here's a cooler that's not considered Maya kerem.
Even if it's the 5, the configuration of the 5.
Right, but if
Because
it's
that's so small,
right, that's the right,
even though you'd call it a kerem.
right. If it will be big trees, then the 5 is already a kerem, and it's by a kerem, and us is
No, it's
everything.
this cooler kerem.
But cooling, if it's more than that, it's going to be a bigger than more than the 5 full size kerem, whatever people call it kerem, whatever it's called. So then it is going to be us. We're not going to make this leniency that it's short. Bottom line, mace. So before we spoke about a mace, that's topes Avraham for Kriyashma. And that was another halacha over here. Before we say you're not allowed to learn Torah within the Aladamas of a mace. Now we say mace topes Avraham the Torah. That means that the Kohen is not allowed to go within the Aladamas of a mace. The new halacha, of course, the rice is only telling if you touch him or he carries him or he's under the same roof. And there's a new halacha that is not allowed to go within the Aladamas. But Rabbanan, not because he's really tummy, but Rabbanan, he might become tummy. So don't go within the Aladamas. The Tana Tuna, that means that we have a right from our Tana to this statement. It's only it's Rabbi Yochanan in the name of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, who's a Tana, but we have a Mishnah that's also going to support this idea. It says in the Mishnah, so we don't have this nowadays, but Rabbi Pinchas showed how they nowadays they find these Ma'oris Krua, the caves where they have the Kuchim inside, and I guess if you go on a tour up north, whatever, you can find them. Maybe over here also there. Yeah. So it's something to crawl into. I didn't know they have to crawl into it. There's a Chaser HaKever, Ma'oros HaKever, that they had a kind of a cave that's crawled into, sometimes downward, sometimes sideways. And inside, they dug it out, or it was naturally dug out, and they have kuchim to bury in the walls. Then when you come out of this, you come out of that ma'ora, the ma'ora is a cave, they have a couple of ma'oros that they would maybe configure all around, and then there'd be a chatzar, a kever, that was the chatzar that all the ma'oros opened up into a central chatzar.
Is that this picture?
Yes, but it's hard to see since it's, but then when you see it in real, he has a picture, a real one, so you can see how it's something that's you have to crawl into. You don't see the 3D. The chatzar is on the when you come out when you're on the field outside. You're in the so you'll see.
You're saying this is like an aerial view.
It's an aerial view, so you don't see the height. You don't see the 3-dimensional. But you have to crawl into the ma'oros HaKever, the burial chambers over there. And but the outside there's a chatzar that you come out into. So here it says it depends if you're in the chatzar HaKever, are you tummy? You're not next to any kever. Are you tummy by being in the chatzar HaKever? So it says chatzar HaKever only b'sochator. If somebody stands in this chatzar HaKever, he's sorry, he didn't go into the mall. He's not next to the. He's not over the kvarim. Bishama says only if the chatzar HaKever is $1, I guess $1. altogether dollar amas by dollar amas. I'm not sure.
At least.
It has to be like, if it's that size, then he's tar. If it's less than that, it's going to become tummy. Just being in the chatzar kever is already tummy. They say very leniency. Once it's 4 tvachim, it's also tar. Only if it's less than 4 tvachim. But we'll make a little parentheses within all this. First, the Gemara's version is that even base Hillel is going to be moda. Sometimes you have to have daled amas also. It means he says a kula that daled tvachim was enough, that he's tar. But sometimes he agrees to Beis Shammai that it's only tar if his daled amas big. What's the difference? So it says difference if the Pesach Mala Pesach Menasad. The Shachar means how you get into the Ma'ora. From the Chatzah you go into the Ma'ora. So where's the door? Is it a door that's Mala, which means like a trap door, like straight down, that you just call straight down? I'm not sure how to picture this whole thing exactly. How you get into the Chatzah from where?
The chatzir.
From where? Okay.
Because if you have to jump down to get into the chutzner,
So I don't get
From the
that picture
Chatzah,
exactly. That it's jumped down from where?
from ground level.
No, like this.
The chatzir is
Here
also
they have
below
like a
level.
bore or something.
Chutzner is
Like a bore. And this is not.
I don't know. I just don't get the pictures. I do not know. I don't know. But okay, I'm just saying that.
all the moras are underground.
And the
And
chutzner is
the chutzner is also lower, so that you can walk into
Ah.
the mora.
so now to get from ground level to the chutzner also there's a pesach. You have to have a pesach.
You can walk straight into the chutzner.
Ah,
You have to go
okay.
jump down into it.
So he says difference if the pischam natzad or pischam malamala. How do you get into the chutzner? Either straight down malamala or from the side. So he says if it's on the side, you have to have more reason you're going to become tamei. So they only become tar if you have a daled amas area. But the more it jumps up, it says it doesn't make sense. Papilaya. Towards which direction are you going? Laya means Rashi says to where? Is that true? Rashi says keneged efo. Laya means efo, and klape means towards. Towards where? Means where are you going? On the other on the contrary, minatzad midrid. Or Rashi says meidad medadet benafik, but normally yavshed lo mahil. On the side when you crawl, so you could crawl sideways, and there's no dafka big shot. You're going to be over the floor. But when the opening is on top and you over the opening and you have to go down, so you definitely more chance you're going to be mile on the climb because you have to put your hands onto the side in order to climb in and out when you're crawling, so then you don't have to get your hands outside of the area that you're crawling in. But when you're climbing, you have to get your hands on the sides to help you get up and down. So therefore there's more shots you're going to put your hands over the climb, and therefore it should be more reason to be tummy.
I thought the issue was getting your hands in the petach of the mora. That was the issue.
So where's you're saying the Pesach means still Pesach going into the Chatzah, not the Pesach of the Mora.
The pesach milamalo or minatzad is into the chutzner.
And-
if you have milamalo and you have to hoist yourself down, there's a more chance that your hands is going to get
Into the Mora
petach
already.
of the mora.
Okay.
And then that's-
I didn't go to the Rashi. You saw Rashi? That's okay.
I saw-
Yeah. So the more they put change.
Learn the whole Rashi.
Yeah. So that was the impression. So we change it around that if it's going to be in a case where it's more chash, you're going to become tamei, which is lamala, then they still is more than also abamas. That's not the main point over here. The point is to say that everybody holds that the chatzar kever is Torah under certain conditions. What's working for amas, but now the Gemara gets to the point. This is going to be the Gemara's diak. Hani mili chatzar kever, the Nasaima mechitzasa. Avon meis ba'almataf is the fact that the Mishnah has to tell you that your Torah in a chatzar kever, that means that chatzar kever is special like your Torah under certain circumstances. Why should you be tamei in the first place? So I would have thought myself that of course the chatzar kever is more dangerous to become tamei. You're right next to a Morris kever, that farm over there. In a regular case, I don't know if there would have been a chash, but the Gemara says no. The dik is the opposite. That the chatzar kever is a reason to be Torah. If there wouldn't be, because the chatzar kever that it has some kind of a mechitza, so you see it's a davar mesuyam. It's a thing which is defined. The defined place is more reason why it should be Torah. But a mace that doesn't have any defined borders, so then Dalaramis is a tamei. That's the halacha, which the Kohanim should know. They're not allowed to go without in Dalaramis of a mace, even if they're not going to be Ohel or Maga or Masa. Kohen's not allowed to go within Dalaramis of a mace. Sounds also like he's tamei. Dalaramis of tamei doesn't mean that it's usher. It means it becomes tamei midrabanan. Could be tamei midrabanan. The Rambam says Makanos and Makas Mar. That's a Kohen's not allowed to go Dalaramis within a mace. Shulchan Aruch says that if there's 10 tvachim mechitza, then he's allowed to. If there's 10 tvachim mechitza around the mace, then he would be allowed, or around the kever.
Within Torah.
then he'd even be allowed to go within the Alarama since there's a Mechitza. And it's like a defined place. Maybe he gets it from this Gemara, I don't know. But if it wouldn't be a defined place of 10 Tfachim gate, then he wouldn't be allowed to go within Alaramas of the Keva or the mace. So all these was extra credit because we had Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, Rav Yochanan Mishum Rav Elazar ben Yaakov. And we now finished all these parentheses. Rav Elazar ben Yaakov. And now the Gemara goes back to the Mishnah, all about Orchia Mulchama, to go back, and it said 3 Pturim. One was about the house, one was about the vineyard, one is about marrying, and we're up to the one about the marriage. That he's potter if he did the erusin. Tanarabanan asher eras. It says in the pasuk mi asher eras isha. Echad ha'ma'oves says sabasula. Ve'echad ha'ma'oves says salmona. Ve'echad shemeres yavam. Not after if it's a basula, even if it's almana, she's already married. She's a widow. Also, if he marries her, for him it's a new wife, and it's enough to part him to go to war, from combat. And Shemeres Yavam also means that that's a kind of an erison because his brother died, and now his sister-in-law is a cook of him. So also it's like erison, and he doesn't go to combat. This the Mishnah said, and even if there were 5 brothers and one of them died in the war, so now the rest of the brothers, now the wife is a cook to all of them, so they go back from the war. Then another drasha. It says,
all shaykh would be husbands to her.
right, it's like an erison, right? Each one. And the one said before that it's not called shutfin because it's only going to be one of them. So we don't know which one it's going to be. Right now, there's a kuka, so therefore they're all potter. It says in the pasuk, it could have said v'lo lakach. Why does it say v'lo lakacha? That's a room. He didn't take her. That's going to be like a room for a special amiyah. The dafka if he didn't take her. All kinds of women that he's not allowed to marry. For instance, a Kohen Gadol cannot marry an almana, a Kohen cannot marry a grusha, and he was ma'aris her. He did eris and he didn't do nesuah. So you might think he goes back from the war because he eris isha. No, since it's a woman he's not allowed to marry, so he's it's excluded from this parsha because there's extra hay. Machavus asked that even without that, if the whole point is that of course he's supposed to marry, he's supposed to divorce. What are you in the pasuk for? So I don't know. The Gemara has a pasuk to exclude that if it's a kind of woman he's not allowed to marry, that doesn't exempt him from combat. Gemara's a kasha that this person didn't have Avera, so of course he can't go to combat. He can't go to the war because the basically says anybody scared of an Avera cannot go to war. That's the same kasha we had yesterday about the Goslin with the house. Here it's a similar kasha that we have about the one who's marrying a woman he's not allowed to, so he can't go to war because he didn't have Avera. It comes out against Avera who's going to say in the bottom of the page. The pasuk says that somebody who's scared should also go back. And Rabbi Kiva is going to say that it means he's scared of war. And Rabbi Yosef says that he's scared of Averis. So if a sinner cannot go to war, so this person surely cannot go to war because he marries a Malachon Gadol. He married somebody he's not allowed to. We could even reconcile with according to Rabbi I'll tell you a case where he didn't do an Avera. How could it be he didn't do an Avera? The Rabbah. The Rabbah, all the men of Chayv, Bachi Yivo. Matam, Lo Yikach, Mishum Lo Yichalo, Mishum Mochian, Loke, Achi Yivo. Rabbah says that the Avera is to have relations. The fact that he married her, gave her a ring, already Mekudeshesly, didn't do the Avera yet. And even if he's going to bring her into his house, that's not the Avera. The Avera is only when he has relations. So this person that he took the wife, he did Erusin, he gave her a ring, and said Mekudeshesly, even though he's not allowed to marry her, he's not allowed to have relations, but he didn't do an Avera yet. So mitzad Avera, he wouldn't go back because he didn't do an Avera. But mitzad, did he get a ptor because he married? No, that's not a kind of a woman that he's potter because he's not supposed to marry her because it has a special hey, the kacha, and therefore he doesn't go back. Interesting, the order of the pasuk. The pasuk says the 3 pturim, the 3 exemptions. It says he built a house, he planted a vineyard, he married a woman. Why does it say in this order? The order of these 3 things. So it comes Hamagat over here. That's the order that a person should live. He shouldn't marry. The Rambam says the Keder Chashotim, he marries, then he doesn't have parnos, he doesn't have a house, and then he starts looking. He should first build a house and then get a business, and then marry. So how come people don't do it nowadays?
Because they won't get a good shidduch.
Or because it'll take too long to get a house. How long is it going to take them to get a house? Nowadays to get a house?
What a working man.
But the working people also don't do this, do they? They also don't get a house and
No,
Okay.
you rent a house.
you rent a house. So guess
You
what it
rent a
means?
house, get a job.
You rent a house. Okay, that's what people usually do. They rent a house. You have to, okay, if you're renting a house, might as well wait till he gets the wife so she know which house she wants. So she's gonna say, I don't want this house. Like in the olden days, it was the house, this is my house. You wanna come to my house? Come to my house. Nowadays, the mentality is a little different. But ideally, a person should have a house and a business, there's a parnas established, and then marry. Also, another pasuk which also is a source for the same thing. It says in the pasuk, we'll bring the pasuk over here, and there was Gadash in the pasuk in a couple of ways. It says in the pasuk in Mishlei, that's the pasuk. Prepare your work in out in the outdoors, and establish it. And establish it like Atida is like to be Atida b'sad Allah, to establish it in the field, and then build your house. So the more is going to dash these three points. Even though the Pashto says malachtecha, your work, but it means make a house. I don't see the word exactly. Atida b'sad Allah is the keren, and then achar v'nisa beisacha zu isha. So that's the same thing that Shlomo Melech is also referring to, that the proper order would be to build a house, to get a parnasa, and then to marry.
How do you build a house without parnasa?
Probably the houses of then were not like the houses of today.
Candlesticks.
You get the log, get a log.
I know that I think I've learned that the pioneers in America, the community would help build the house.
They got
They
they chopped down
logs,
the logs and
And
they
they
made.
made him a house, and then he's got that field, he can start working the field, now that he has a house to live in.
But now it's more complicated. Now it's complicated. You can't just chop down the logs. So they don't push up getting married.
But nowadays, somebody has a place to live, and if they get a job, and now that they have money,
Now they
that
can be
represents
responsibly get married.
having the ability to.
Take it to support a wife.
Or no?
The Gemara's gonna say,
For her,
He says
for you, or
that
for
Yeshiva Bachman is careful to know it because they see job, J-O-B, and you get nervous.
And then what, and they see what?
Job.
Eve.
Eov, spelled J-O-B.
Job,
So
that's
again,
why they don't
that's why
learn it?
that's why they don't learn it. Yeah.
the Gemara, the rest of it is Aga. Once we mentioned this pasuk, it really came in because of the point about bias, Kerem, and Isha. But once we brought down the pasuk in Mishlei, so we're going to dash in other ways also. You're supposed to have three things: Mikra, Mishnah, Gemara, and it goes in this order. First the Mikra, then the Mishnah, then the Gemara. Don't do Gemara beforehand because you won't know. You have to first prepare, get like the house, the Kerem, and then the wife. So it's going to be Mikra, Mishnah, Gemara. You won't understand the Gemara if you don't have. Of course, the Gemara will mean the purpose is to know what to do at the end. You have to know the Gemara, this explanation of the psukim. Everything is coming to explain the psukim. So you won't understand it if you're going to go in the wrong order. Another pshat. That the purpose is to come to Almanas Lasos, to be able to do. So learn and do. So here we're going to combine Mikra and Mishnah together. For some reason it goes together. They're very similar. Mikra and Mishnah, maybe I don't know. That's the basic Torah Shabbat Peh. And then Ata Basad Allah has a different level of learning. And then that's going to bring you that you should do Masim Tovim. Don't do Masim Tovim right away. There's not going to be such Masim Tovim. Like Abinullah says, if you do Masim Tovim before you learn a lot, so it's like you're a green apple, you're an unripe apple. First become ripe, and then your Masim Tovim are going to be good. You want to do a lot of kindness before you know Torah. Your kindness is going to be warped. That's his way of explaining it. So first learn in order to do the good Masim Tovim. Another pshat everything, all the learning is included in that. What goes next? He did it already. I'm on Aslan, so she did everything. That's a little difficult. What does that mean? Learn to get reward. What does that mean? So, of course, what does it mean? It means you're already learning, you know what to do, but you keep on learning. So here sounds like that's the matara. Sounds like this is the goal. So that's very difficult to say. Learn and do all your learning, and then keep on learning in order to get schar, even if it doesn't have any practical application. That would be very difficult. So I think that the Mashah hints to it, and somebody else they bring down that it might mean learning Kabbalah. There might be a pshat that it means more the Jewish. I think it's other places the Gemara said Jewish Kabbalah doesn't mean this. I looked up other places where it says it on the side. Sanhedrin's Vacham, it doesn't mean that over there. But over here, it might mean that there's a learning that the schar, that means the real schar is going to be like the The law says that Ikka learning is
So
Kabbalah.
go,
And even though it's not for everybody, we're not saying that's for everybody, but if somebody that did all the learning, Mikra, Mishnah, Gemara, and he Masim Tovin, so then he should go on to learn Yediyas Hashem, which is called knowing Hashem. So what's the purpose over there? That's surely the biggest thing, to know Hashem. And the Gemara says that's to have the highest level of learning. So I think it might be that might be it. Without that, it's hard to understand. What does it mean? Josh to Kabbalah Sofer just for the purpose of learning for learning.
I have three options. The
Yes.
first is Kabbalah, the second is the Iyun.
What is the purpose of Ian? What is the purpose of Ian if not to know what to do? The purpose of Ian is that, like Gemara is Ian. Gemara is Ian. It says Mikra, Mishnah, Gemara, and then you know what to do. So what is the Ian going to mean? According to Marsha over there, who are they calling?
I'm not sure.
The Marsha says Chochmah Iyunis, but I think that's his way of saying philosophy, which is the way the Rambam calls Kabbalah. So
Okay, so maybe they're together.
think
And
it's
the
what he
third
means.
would be fixing midos. I thought that the Gra says that that we're in this world to fix our midos.
but I'll be surprised that it's not included in Masim Tovim also. That I see difficult in the words a little bit, but okay, that's the Gemara. The Gemara Mishnah continues.
What is the Kabbalah star? That's just like a quirk, right? Or what's it mean?
So if
We're
the
not supposed
pshat,
to do it to the Kabbalah.
right, but if the pshat is in order to know Hashem, the Kabbalah is to know Hashem. Yodei Shemecha is in order to know Hashem. So that I could understand that it's in other words that that's the biggest.
I see.
But again,
Get the
It
full
does-
star.
it doesn't-
In other words, get the full star.
but I can't say it's Pashup Pshat, and other places in the Gemara uses this term, it doesn't mean that. So I don't know. Or just mean, it wouldn't bother me if it means that even after you know what to do, still keep on learning. That's okay. But here it sounds like it's the goal, because the other ones it was, Elisa Beisacha, the goal is to come to here. To say this is the goal is to learn, even though doesn't have any practical application would be difficult to say.
Well, why
Okay,
couldn't it be that the whatever that word was, establishing the field could be learning, memorizing the Mishnayos and learning the Gemara, and then the Iyun is like the Chazorah. You know,
so the question would be that it sounds like the last thing is the purpose, like that's the goal. There's the preparation, and then there's the means, and then there's the goal.
so if you have the words in the Torah, but you don't have the Iyun of word.
But right, so that's included before. You have before the Masim Tov, you have to know what it means, the depth of it, and you have to remember it. That's already included before you do the Masim Tov. That's already included in Mikra, Mishnah, and Gemara. To say you're supposed to continue learning, even if you know what to do already, I can understand, but
the
the
first
here,
one is already.
is included in that. And if it's and if even though you're supposed to continue learning, even though you know it, but is that the goal? The Rosh Hashanah is the goal? It doesn't sound like that. You might just say it doesn't mean the goal over here. Maybe that also would suffice.
there are more cups behind them. Need a higher level.
We said that, and that's the Mishnah already. And after that, it says that if you rebuilt the same house, you took down a house and built it again the same way as it was before, so that buys machono, so it says that doesn't go back. But if he added on something, he rebuilt the house the way it was, but he made it a bit higher, branches a bit thicker, whatever it might be, he added on something, so that also is considered a chiddush, and he does go back from Yochamal from them. A brick house from Sharon. Sharon is where the bricks made out of the Sharon earth stand are not they crumble after a while. It has to be renewed, renovated twice in 7 years. So that's not considered an established house, and that's not enough to be able to go back. Then the Mishnah continues, and all the three things that even though the pasuk only talks about a wife, but if he married a wife, not only consecrated, not only the Erusin, betrothal, not only the Erusin, even the Nesuin, then he's potter for a year. And the Mishnah says he doesn't even go to Masapek Maimon Muslim. He doesn't go to non-combat either. He stays home. The other ones, the ones who was going to buy Erusin, then he goes to help out non-combat. But these that he did marry, and he did eat the fruit, and he did move into the house, he placed butter for a year, and even non-combat. he's put from. So this, by the first pasuk we spoke about, Eretz Isha V'lo L'Kacha doesn't say Isha Chadasha, but here it says Isha Chadasha. If someone took a new wife, you might think only if it's a new wife means even a basul. After basul is called a new wife. Almana Gusha Menayin. How do you know if she was once married? It's still called Isha Chadasha. Isha. The word Isha implies any kind of wife. Not after basula. And came at Misha Chadasha. Misha Chadasha lo. There's a master Gusha so she Chadasha lo. If he remarried a woman that he was married to, he divorced her and remarried her. It's not called a new wife because he had the wife already. So that's what it comes to exclude. And the one said before that excludes also the first parasha by Eretz Isha V'lo L'Kacha. If it's going to be master Gusha, so also he doesn't have any ptor. He says the first year he shouldn't go to the war. Yeah, and nothing. How do you know he not only doesn't go to combat, he doesn't even go to non-combat. It says he shouldn't go to the army and he shouldn't pass over him anything. That means any kind of responsibility, he's supposed to follow responsibilities for a year. You might think that it goes back in the first parsha also, that even the parsha Shoftim, where it says the three Pturim, you might think that they're exempt completely. Only here, this person who married, or he built a house and he lived in it, or he planted the vineyard and he ate from its fruit, that's the person who doesn't go to any responsibility. But the earlier ones, that they didn't move into the house, he didn't marry the wife yet, he didn't eat the fruit, so then he doesn't have the ptor of non-combat. He only has the ptor of combat. When he wants to say he has no responsibilities, why does it have to single out? He shouldn't go to the army. He says you don't go to the army and he doesn't have any responsibilities. He doesn't have any responsibilities. It already includes everything that he shouldn't go to the army either. The answer is that he's also that person itself would have already included. He doesn't go to the army, but it's now if he goes to battle, then he transgresses two averas. If he does any responsibility, it's one avera. If he goes to combat, then he transgresses two averas. That also but it would have been us anyway. It says the mission of Yesva Shotim and they say whoever's scared should go back home, and they shouldn't melt the hearts of the brothers like his. What does it mean? That he's scared. He can't stand in combat, and he can't see outdrawn sword. He can't take the war. He's scared. Kishra Mulchama, Rashi talks about Kishra Mulchama means how they're arranged, the battle arrangement. The point is that he can't see battle.
The Nazi Muhammad, so to say, the confrontation of Muhammad.
So Rashi, I would have thought so. Rashi doesn't say that. Rashi seems to say on the same side, not the confrontation of the enemy. Rashi says their own troops. That the army stays together in order that the enemy shouldn't separate amongst them. So Rashi going on the same side. The same team is considered Kishrei Mulchama. I would have thought, like you said, that means a confrontation against the clash against the enemy. Rashi doesn't seem to say that. And
I see.
And
Freedom.
Rashi, the art scroll translates it as the battle phalanx.
The battle what?
Phalanx.
What's the battle phalanx?
So it says that how they arrange their soldiers in order to fight. Rows, whatever it might be.
Of the enemy or of the?
Each side has their own side.
They can't stand to see.
They're supposed. They can't. He can't. What we need is to say he can't stay. He can't take the pressure of being in the army. Whatever reason it is, he's scared he's going to die. So if he's scared, he shouldn't go to war. The pshat is not because he's scared. The pshat is because he's scared of Averis. He has sins. And that's what the Gemara quoted a couple of times, that according to Avrohom, if he has sins, he doesn't go to war. The Gemara spoke about a Ganeb or about someone married a woman he's not allowed to. The Fikir Taltzal Torah is called Elu, Sheyachsa Biglalan.
We learned that had the Gemara that the client sells so even just a Kriyashma, that's enough to exclusive.
Interesting. So he's saying here that it's not enough because if he's scared if he has any Averis. Interesting.
I don't know how to understand it.
Main Krishma twice a day in attendance or beyond, but that doesn't stop you from doing that.
So he shouldn't go to war. If he has Averis, he shouldn't go. We have 612 Averis. He says Kriyashma. So I don't know. He's supposed to go back. According to Avrohom, if he has any Averis, he's supposed to go back. The
He
figure,
speaks about that. That there's not, even if you believe in Hashem and everything. When bombs are going off, it's a normal thing to be nervous.
yeah.
It's a
No, so there are two sugis over here. Kiva says if he's scared, he goes back. Basically, he says if he has a virus, he goes back. Two subjects. You're saying the first one that it's not a virus to be scared.
That's right.
And if he's scared, he's scared. Some people are scared. That's it.
No, it seems like the feedback is going on the first opinion.
I thought not. I thought it's going on in basic ruling.
Oh, yeah?
I thought so. Maybe I'm wrong.
Rashi's one of them.
That the reason why the Torah said the other people can go back, the person who built a house, a vineyard, married, that when people go back, he shouldn't say, "Oh, you have Avera." If it'd only be Avera, people go back, so then it would be hard to go back. He'd be embarrassed. But if the other people also going back, so nobody just realizes why he's going back. Maybe he built a house. Nobody knows. The Fikach tells a lot of Torah is called Eilu. She also therefore the Torah said other reasons why people go back, that it's not embarrassing to go back for an Avera also. What do you want to say? That if he's scared, he doesn't have to have an excuse to go back. He's scared.
Scared.
He wants to go back. He wants to go
If
back.
he's scared,
He
it's
wants
not
to go back.
embarrassing to go back.
I mean, it may
he's
be
scared
embarrassing,
of that.
but he's surely going to go back. He's scared. He wants to go back. He's
But
saying,
if he's
"Please, I
scared
want to
of
go
the
back."
virus, he shouldn't
So
publicize
we
it.
want to help him that he shouldn't be embarrassed from his awareness. Rabbi Yomer, one of the Kohen Gadol, Lusha v'Lusa l'Kohen Hediot, Mamzes and Asini l'Yisrael, B'Yisrael Mamzel l'Nasan, Abehu, Hayoel Bracha l'Edo. Seems to say the same thing, that if somebody married a woman he's not allowed to, it's an Avera, so he should go back. So the Muslim has to explain what's the difference between a verse and a verse. Both of them seem to say the same thing. That's going to be the Gemara. It says in the pasuk, it says after they said all these announcements, so then they should appoint officers. That's the pasuk. But the Gemara adds on also the Mishnah over Kebo Shalom, also behind. In the pasuk it says to make officers in the front. So now we're going to make also some kind of officers in the back. What's that all about? Ma'amidin zakifin lefneihem, v'acherim me'achoreim, v'kashilin shalbaz l'beidem, v'chol m'vakesh lachsa, v'shus biyodo, v'kapeh hashoka. The ones in the top is called zakifin. Zakifin Rashi says direct. The people in the and that's very hard for us to understand because Mamish hand-to-hand combat, Mamish, that was until very recently, that was the way it fought. They went hand-to-hand combat. So you have to have people in the fronts that would be encouraging the soldiers to get up. If they fell, they should get up, and he should be with them to encourage them and help them physically. And then also have people behind. This is very interesting, that they had axes, iron axes, and there's no going back. It means if you're scared, go, you're scared. But if you're not scared, and then there's no turning back in the middle. You can't in the middle decide to run away. Because if anybody wanted to run away backwards, they were allowed to chop off their feet. Shok is the bottom of the foot. Because there's no going back.
Is it Kishilin?
Kashilin. It's supposed to again Tehillim.
What are they?
That's kind of an axe. Rashi over here, they say there's a kind of an arrow, but Rashi in Tehillim says it's a kind of an axe. So that's fascinating that we tell the army is no turning back, and he's not allowed to go back. No one goes back. And they had officers, Jewish officers that were behind there. Somebody goes back, they're allowed to chop his legs. The point it means to say is that if you run, it's gonna start that then the army's gonna fall. If you then they was gonna say the word should be the opposite. The beginning of falling is when you flee. When you flee, that's gonna cause you to fall. The words it says is that the beginning of fleeing is falling. Maybe it can be understood differently also. That's the point. That means the worst thing, the beginning of the fall is when you start fleeing. So there's no fleeing. He says the pasuk talks about fleeing, then it talks about falling. It says Am Yisrael fled, and also there was a big Magefa against the people. It means, of course, Magefa in the war. They fell in the war. But it says first Nas, and then it says Nefila, that the fleeing was the first problem, that's why they fell. Another pasuk, so it says first they fled, then they fell. So that's the order. First they flee, and then they fall. Period. Now a big all these halachas about all these pturim, all the exemptions we had about war, the Muhammad shows. That's only when it's a voluntary war. That when there's a Muhammad mitzvah, which means to conquer Israel or for defense, if they're coming and they're the ones who are attacking. If we're offensive, so that's not Muhammad Rishus. If it's not to capture Israel, but to capture Israel is considered Muhammad mitzvah and also defense. So then there's no ptor. Even the biggest ptor would be someone married and he's lokachishel he's potter for a year, but then everything stops. Even the chassan also goes out from his room. Kala mechupasa, what does that mean? The kala goes also to battle. The kala doesn't go to battle. What is?
They make food.
So they make food. Some say they make food. Some would say that this means the Pashto the pasuk over there. What?
The default, since it's not a chassan, not a chuppah, she's not.
So she goes home. She goes home. There's nothing to do. It means she's not going out of the chuppah to go to war. The chassan goes out of his room, out of the cheder. The cheder and chuppah is the same thing. That how come the chassan leaves? Because he's going to war. So the kala is there by himself. So she goes home to her father. What's she going to do here? But it's the pasuk says she doesn't go to do any kind of a war. Amr Abiyudah. So Abiyudah seems to say the same thing over again. It seems to be the same thing over again. He said, "Achil between Melchames Mitzvah and Melchames Rishus." Amr Abiyudah. Medvam were Melchames Mitzvah, but Melchames Chova. Hakal Yosin Afiv Chosim Bechad Kal Mechupas. He seems to say the same thing, but instead of saying Rishus and Mitzvah, he says Mitzvah and Chova. So we don't know what this means. What are these concepts called? Melchames Rishus, Melchames Mitzvah, Melchames Chova. So the Gemara is going to talk about it. I think we might get there today, maybe not. Let's see. Ma'ika Bain. Both of them said that Avera, you go back from the war. One said in general, Avera should be other, and one said, the Bersi said, even Aman Lakan Go, Busha Bahusa Lakan Hedia, Ikabanai Avera Jabanan. That Bersi, it's a hard shot in the Mishnah, but the Mishnah says the Bersi means to say Dafka Avera Daraisa, like Aman Lakan Go, with Avera Daraisa, but if he is a Rabbanan, he doesn't go back. And basically it says any Avera, even Avera Jabanan. Who is the author of the following verse? Someone spoke between the two tefillin. Tefillah means tefillin shal yad, tefillin shal rosh. So you're not supposed to speak interrupt. And if you do, you have to say in our bracha. So if somebody did, so instead of Avera, no, it's only Rabbanan, it's not the Raisa. Even if such a kind of an Avera, he goes back from the battle. So who's this? Come on, even on the Rabbanan. According to Yossi, only on the Raisa. Who's the author of the following Raisa? Shama, Kol, Kronos, Versia, Kama. Agafas reason Versia, Kama. If he heard the noise of the enemy, their shofar or their clanging of their shields, and he got scared, or the swords when they're also the word Sesuch means to shine, but it means that it's banging. They're not. So then, and he's terrified. He's scared. Ma'am shows means that he even let water because urinate because he wasn't able to control his bladder because he's scared. Yes, he also scared. He got scared. So Hoser, he goes back. Means that he's scared. So I can say he's scared. So that's like Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva says, means that he's scared. That's basically he says Avera. It's not Avera. So maybe according to basically someone who's scared is not supposed to go back. Rabbi Kiva holds that someone who's scared goes back. The Gemara says no. The Gemara is saying that Rabbi basically also holds to the principle of Rabbi Kiva that someone that's scared goes back. The pasuk says openly that he shouldn't melt everybody else like his own heart. So he also agrees that someone who's scared goes back. But he learns it from the second part of the pasuk. The first part of the pasuk, Rabbi Kiva says, is also talking about someone that's scared. So he doesn't have any source about someone that didn't Avera. And basically he says that a person who didn't Avera is the first part, Isha or Berachal. And then that is another halacha, that someone that's scared also should go back. Comes out, everybody holds that someone who's scared should go back. That's not a question. And therefore this halacha, this reverse goes according to everybody. And only a basically really holds that if it's an Avera, he goes back from Avera also. Unlike the Gemara said a second ago, even Avera Rabbanan.
Could be the difference in level of fright, level of physical fright.
But the Gemara doesn't make a machlokas out of it. You want to say that this thing is called Himas Levava? That's the pshat? I didn't think so, but maybe you're right. That Himas Levava, does Rashi say that? Any Rashi about this? I hear what you're saying. That maybe this level,
This level, this is an extreme level.
But this is called Himas Levava. If he's scared in his heart, yeah, but no one else is affected by him. So then people say go back, and he says not to go back. Interesting. Okay, very nice, very nice. Okay, the Gemara continues. So then they make sure nobody runs away, and they have these people behind. What are they called? Will be there. So it says with Nishat Chilas Nefila. And that doesn't make sense. How Neshat Chilas Nisa Nefila? No, it should be the opposite. Neshat Chilas Nefila Nisa. It should have said that the beginning of falling is when you flee. So the Gemara says that's what it means. Aim of Neshat Chilas Nefila Nisa. Change the words around. That's what it really means. That the beginning of falling is when you flee. The first thing is fleeing. That's the beginning of the downfall. So therefore, you don't let anybody flee. So So this Gemara didn't get clear yet. I'll just say then maybe we'll clarify it tomorrow. Be'ez Hashem. So what does it say? That this is all Chamas Rishus, but mitzvah everybody goes, or the Gersa was, or the statement was that the Chamas mitzvah is all the above, and the Chamas Chova, everybody goes to war. I'm Rabbi Yochanan. Rishus Rabbanan, Zui mitzvah Rabbi Yehuda. Mitzvah Rabbanan, Zui Chova Rabbi Yehuda. I think he's saying they're really the same thing. It's just Rabbi Yehuda, the same thing as Tanakh, just different terms. Both of them mean the same thing. He wants to call it a Rishus, he calls it a mitzvah, the same thing. And we'll say that, like I said before, that a mitzvah means the Eretz Yisrael. I'm sorry, Rishus means no. It's just a mitzvah in this one. When the Rabbanan say Rishus, that's what Rabbi calls it a mitzvah. The regular means, which means offensive, not an Eretz Yisrael, that's called a mitzvah also, in contrast to a chova. But they called it a Rishus, he called it a mitzvah. But then the Rabbanan say mitzvah, that's what Rabbi said a chova. That's going to be Eretz Yisrael, lawful defense. They all mean the same thing, just different terminology. I think so, but I didn't see the Rashi even yet, so I didn't see. Amarava, no, this is machlokes going on. Maybe I'm saying wrong shot. I didn't see Rashi even yet. So Amarava, Mechamas Yeshua Lechabesh, Lechbosh, Divya Kol Chova. Mechamas Beis David the Ravacha, Divya Kol Rishus. Ikvigil Lemute Goyim, Velolesi Alayim. Mar Korle Mitzvah, Mar Korle Rishus. Nafkamina, Rosk Mitzvah, Batamina Mitzvah. Mechamas to conquer Eretz Yisrael, everybody holds is the biggest. That's the Chova. That's going to be the biggest level of war. Beis David the Ravacha means that they want to get more territory. That's the least. It's not. I think it's not. It's that's considered all the way in the bottom. There's going to be something in between. It's called mitzvah or not. That's going to be the question over here. But there's something.
Financially, to take mass.
So that's called rishus, and you're allowed to do that. But it's called mechamas rishus, and that's when all the lachas are applying. Keep leaking the mute going. The lolesi alai. We want to make
Less than the going around us.
Low
Maybe
lace,
they'll come upon
they,
us.
they shouldn't come. That they should be scared.
Prevent them to come.
Prevent them. So what's lamute? Lamute.
Kill them out. No harm.
It doesn't just mean to scare them. You can scare them. If the purpose is they shouldn't come. So
Make them fewer in number.
So it's preemptive.
Right.
You want to kill them before they come to
No, is it to, it's not driving them out. We're saying to make less want to come in.
So if it will be just to they shouldn't want to come in, so then it's not lamute. You're not diminishing them. You just
So the
make them
move
fear.
sounds like you're making, there's going to be less going in the land.
In order that they shouldn't come.
They shouldn't come upon you. They shouldn't multiply and come upon you.
Rashi doesn't explain. He just says lamute going to lo. He doesn't say.
The low yese aleh,
He doesn't.
they shouldn't
That
come.
they shouldn't come upon. So I don't have clarity. I didn't see the portion yet. So Be'ez Hashem, I'll try to be much them tomorrow.
What's the second one?
What?
Oh, I'm sorry, Markri, you did too?
He calls it a mitzvah, and he calls it a what does it go?
Oh, I see. Markri,
He calls it a mitzvah. He calls it a rishus. Mine not kamina. Le'osik mitzvah. Patam a mitzvah. Is that considered a mitzvah? If he's doing another mitzvah, if he's doing this, is he patam from another mitzvah? I don't have clarity on the last thing. So if we could deal with it tomorrow.
It says it's shoes, not buttering from another.
Right, right. But it probably needs more explanation than I'm saying. I didn't say enough yet, so there's Hashem. Tomorrow, if it's okay, 5:15, is that good? 5:15 is okay?
15.
5:15? Yes. If someone could tell Chaim David?
Yeah.
5:15.
Yes, everybody. Thank you.
So Darabah.
But milk is like 6:30.